Hi everyone, my name is Mikaila Cruz. I am a yoga teacher, best-selling author, and previous law student. My journey with yoga actually started when I was 4 years old. My father was practicing Ashtanga yoga, which I'll explain later on, but basically it's one of the earliest forms of yoga, and then one of the things that he showed me first was coming into a headstand. And at 4 years old, it was the funnest thing to do. Yoga is a Sanskrit word for union, to yoke. So when you're practicing yoga, you're actually bringing your mind, your body, and your spirit into one, into a physical practice. That is why yoga is life. I was like maybe 16. I was extremely overweight. And so I decided that running was going to be my way of losing weight. The only thing is, my running was actually 6 miles in the morning and 6 miles at night. And I started feeling a little tinge in my medial right knee, went to the orthopedic doctor, and he told me, unless you stop running, you will need a knee replacement. So then start taking a break and start doing something else. And he knew that I had no sense of just sitting there. He knew that I was just crazy. So he said, why don't you start practicing yoga? Now I started thinking about it, and I'm saying, how is that? I'm going to come into a headstand? Is it going to alleviate the pressure? And he said, no. Look it up. And that's how my yoga practice started. I started looking online, like I said, and just started looking at what people were doing to alleviate the pressure in their knees. And that's really where the seriousness of my practice began. So I practice Ashtanga yoga, and Ashtanga is also a Sanskrit word. Ash being 8, Tanga means limb. So you bring Ashtanga, the 8 limbs of yoga, is actually not just a physical practice, it's a spiritual practice. There are 8 limbs, 8 ways of being, one of which is sitting, meditation. Another is breathing practice. So Ashtanga is the earliest form of yoga, and that's what I practice. And what I do is I integrate the practices of Ashtanga yoga into my vinyasa classes. So vinyasa is a separate type of yoga. It is less structured. And what I do is I teach a lot of beginning students, CrossFit, ballerinas, runners like myself. And so that's what I try to do. I integrate the earliest forms of yoga into the modern stretching exercises that people do nowadays. So Ashtanga yoga has 26 postures. And there are different series of Ashtanga. So the first one is the Ashtanga primary series. It's extremely rigorous. A lot of people actually get to only the end of the primary series and they don't go further on to the intermediate series. And so there's intermediate, second, third, fourth. And when you go into the fourth, there are positions where people think that you're a contortionist because you place your leg behind your head, or you do things that you would not normally see in a yoga studio here in the West, but it's a very popular practice in India. Yoga is the union. So it supports me as I walk, as I do dishes, as I do laundry, and everything that I do as I walk my dog. It is being mindful of my body and my soul. The higher mind and the physical mind are one. So in practicing walking meditation, that's a form of yoga. And that is where my journey continues every single day as a yogini. And if you decide to sit on the mat and just sit and meditate, you are practicing yoga. There is no such thing as getting on the mat and not practicing yoga if you're just happy with yourself. Without being a seeker and seeing what other practices can actually benefit you and serve you, I think that it's a disservice. So look beyond where you think that every single day is just monotonous. Look outside of that. And so off the mat and on the mat is the same thing if you look at how you can take care of yourself on the mat, outside of the mat, and everywhere else. So one of my teachers in LA, her name was Leslie Fightmaster. She was an extremely extraordinary teacher. She taught Ashtanga as well as Vinyasa. She was one of the reasons why I strive to be a wonderful teacher. And unfortunately, she passed away suddenly a couple of years ago. But I still encompass 3 things from her class. And this is the reason why people come to me and ask me, where did you get this from? And this is a form of meditation. So basically, at the end of each class, I tell the students, bring the hands to the forehead to remind us to have pleasant thoughts. Bring our hands to our mouths to remind us to have good communication, and our hands to our hearts to remind us to have good intention. And so that was dedicated to my teacher, Leslie.